Lion tamer and trainer Jack Bonavita with wild cats. Died in 1917 after a polar bear attack. A black boy drinks from a water fountain designated for whites only, USA, 1939. The Hollywood sign was created in 1923, but not as a symbol of the Dream Factory. It was simply advertising for new residential areas in Los Angeles, and the sign was originally longer, Hollywoodland. It was supposed to last about a year and a half, but due to the booming film industry in Hollywood, they decided to keep it. Public toilet in Paris, France, 1875. The Arcadico Bridge in Greece, built during the Mycenaean civilization from the 16th to the 11th centuries BCE, is one of the oldest arch bridges in the world and the oldest bridge in Europe. Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived the explosion in Hiroshima, left for work in Nagasaki, and 3 days later survived the bombing there too. The Great Wall of China is regretfully called the longest cemetery in the world. Thousands of people are buried inside it. They died carrying enormous boulders to construct the wall. Edward Bloch, a Jewish doctor and personal physician to Adolf Hitler. He was under Hitler's personal protection, who called him a noble Jew. Anti-apartheid protesters in Cape Town, 1989. Police spray the protesters with colored water from a water cannon so they can be easily identified and arrested. Women gathering firewood, Russian Empire, 1913. The rotor carousel reached 33 revolutions per minute, creating a centrifugal force of almost 3G. When people stuck to the wall of the drum due to the force, the floor was automatically removed for greater effect. USA, 1950s. Russian scientist Alexander Bogdanov hoped to achieve eternal life by transfusing blood from people younger than him. He later died after a transfusion from a student with malaria, who fully recovered after the transfusion. In 1997, a collapse occurred at a mine in China. 17 years later, one of the miners was found alive. Thousands of Union and Confederate Civil War veterans shake hands to honor the fallen and promote reconciliation between former enemies. USA, 1913. Advice from a Russian children's magazine on how to point out a black person, 1904. Protest against Prohibition, USA, 1932. The head of the Labor Protection and Safety Service acts as a model during a firefighting training course for McGuire Hospital employees, USA, 1965. Lee Miller, a U.S. Army frontline photographer, takes a bath in Hitler's Munich apartment, April 30th, 1945. Just before this photo was taken, she photographed the Dachau concentration camp. Corporal Shoichi Yokoi hid in the jungles of Guam after Japan's surrender in 1945 and lived there for 28 years. He was found by shrimp fishermen in 1972. His first words upon returning, "It is with much embarrassment that I return alive." In 2000, the Zimbabwean bank ZB Bank Limited held a lottery for depositors. In an incredible coincidence, the grand prize of $100,000 was won by President Robert Mugabe. 1753, Russian physicist Georg Wilhelm Richmann was killed testing atmospheric electricity. He accidentally created ball lightning that struck his forehead. Charging an electric car in 1911. Several members of the Ku Klux Klan prepare to greet the Gay Pride Parade in Chicago, 1986. People brought their dogs to be euthanized as they were unable to pay the increased pet tax. Berlin, 1926. A woman with a portrait of her son greets the last train with former German prisoners of war from the USSR, 1955. A random lifeboat found months after the Titanic sank in 1912. Inside were 3 dead bodies who had initially survived the disaster. Tokyo citizens mourn the death of Hachiko, 1935. The loyal dog waited for his owner at the station every day, even after his passing. A crowd gathers at an information board showing the names of survivors from the Titanic sinking, New York, 1912. This photograph, taken in 1936, became a symbol of the Great Depression in popular culture. From 1871, a ban on homosexuality was, in effect, in Germany. Even a kiss was punished. 50,000 people were convicted in the Third Reich. The law was not repealed after the war, and people remained in prisons until 1969. How Formula One used to be photographed, around 1960. Early stage of a beauty contest evaluating contestants' figures, USA, late 1940s. A girl tries to cut a sunbeam, 1886. Service at the Track restaurant in Los Angeles, 1950s. Food was delivered directly to cars via a conveyor belt. This cage, known as a Mort safe, appeared in 18th century Scotland. Medical students were digging up graves for practice, so families installed these heavy iron grates to protect their deceased relatives. Violet Jessup worked on the liners Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic, all of which were shipwrecked, but she remained unharmed. A notable 4-year contrast of Abraham Lincoln during wartime in 1861 and 1865. The forced relocation of Native American tribes in the late 19th century, a tragic consequence of U.S. government policy. Siamese twins Rosa and Joseph Blazek, and Rosa's lover, Franz Dvorak. Dachau concentration camp survivors use a shovel to exact revenge on a guard named Weiss. This photo captures his final seconds of life, April 29, 1945. The current Empress of Japan, Masako Owada, with her friends in kindergarten, 1967. At 13, Louis Vuitton left his native village and walked to Paris in search of a better life. His journey, over 450 kilometers, was made on foot and alone after his stepfather kicked him out. A firefighter looks towards the heavily damaged Belgrade's tallest building, NATO bombing, April 1999. August 17, 1896, saw the first recorded pedestrian accident in the world. This marked the beginning of fatal traffic accidents. In 1998, a bridge was built over the Choluteca River in Honduras, but Hurricane Mitch shifted the river's course. The trenches of World War I after 100 years. Self-proclaimed Reverend Father Yod with his wives, 1970s. His Los Angeles commune of the 70s turned sex, drugs, and rock and roll into a brilliant religious formation. In 1869, a caterpillar invasion struck America. In the photo, a group of volunteers is destroying the harmful insects. Stars of the 90s then and now. Time cannot be stopped. White teenagers protesting racial integration in Montgomery, Alabama, 1963. A man is walking to deliver a package, unaware of the magnitude of the tragedy. New York, September 11th, 2001. In 1835, Halley's Comet passed close to Earth, and 2 weeks later, Mark Twain was born. Later, he wrote, "I came in 1835 with Halley's Comet, and I expect to go out with it." And so it happened. Twain died on April 21st, 1910, the day after the comet passed again. Women prisoners sitting on garbage waiting for food. During Prohibition, the Chicago police dumped tons of corn whiskey after raiding an illegal distillery. In children being fed as part of the Save the Children program, an international campaign to provide food for at least 7 million orphan children born during the Russian Revolution, 1921. Bronze memorial to 82 children killed in the village of Lidice, former Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic. 42 girls and 40 boys died in a gas chamber in Chełmno, the first German death camp designed specifically for mass killings. The surrender of the Japanese naval base Kurihara, located on the island of Honshu, 1945. A Japanese man hands his sword to an American with a severe violation of sword etiquette. The hilt under the right arm and the sharp blade facing forward. From the Japanese perspective, he is deeply insulting the American. The American doesn't care and isn't even aware. Hiroshima before and after the explosion. Incredibly powerful earthquake in Alaska, magnitude 9.2, 1964. The moment of the collapse of the World Trade Center in New York, USA, September 11th, 2001. The Football War, 1969, a 6-day military conflict between El Salvador and Honduras. The pretext for the war was the loss of the Honduran team to the Salvadoran team in the playoff matches of the World Cup qualifying stage. Robert Wadlow, the tallest man in the world at 8 feet 11 inches, is pictured here in a rare courtroom photo from 1939. The submarine Kursk being lifted from the bottom of the Barents Sea. The photo shows the astronauts on the Challenger shuttle, NASA, January 28, 1986. The spacecraft exploded 73 seconds after launch. All 7 crew members died. Gold prospectors climbed the Chilkoot Pass to reach the Klondike Goldfields, Alaska, 1898. Price controls in Nazi Germany, 1935. Store closed by police for excessively high prices. Store owner sent for re-education in Dachau. A chimpanzee astronaut receives an apple after the first successful space flight. USA, 1961. Chinese justice. A prisoner kneels on chains with hands tied by the pinkies. Mukden, 1906. Relatives wish each other Merry Christmas through the Berlin Wall in 1961. Andy the Goose was born without feet but became a celebrity after inventor Gene Fleming made him Nike sneakers. He inspired children with disabilities until he was tragically found killed in a park in 1991. The culprit was never found. A woman in a gas mask walks with a stroller. Germany, 1942. Russian soldiers without insignia with machine guns near the building of the Supreme Council of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea, March 1st, 2014. Wrestler Adrian Street with his father, a coal miner, 1973. German soldiers help a Frenchman stuck in the mud at Verdun, WWI, 1916. A sleep holder. In 1949, Dr. Ego Seeger from Vienna invented this device for railway travel. In 1865, the ultra-right Ku Klux Klan organization was created in the U.S. In 1974, North Korea ordered 1,000 Volvo cars from Sweden. The cars were shipped, but North Korea simply never paid for them. The bill remains unpaid to this day, making it the largest car theft in history. In the era of the Great Depression, homeless Americans were forced to live in Hoovervilles, shanty towns named to mock President Hoover. The middle class virtually disappeared. Unemployment soared to 25%, and prices for farm goods dropped by nearly half. In 1923, jockey Frank Hayes won a race at Belmont Park in New York, despite being dead. He suffered a heart attack mid-race but remained in the saddle until the end. Night fishing in Hawaii, where bright lights attract fish to the shallows, 1968. About 100 people draw lots to equally divide 12 acres of purchased sand dunes. This place would later become the city of Tel Aviv, Israel. This photograph, along with many others, captures the devastating consequence of war. Famine. Africa, 1992. If you were caught by the police for jaywalking, you had to stand in the shame box for 30 minutes. South Korea, 1970s. Winter 2011. Kim Jong-un consoles cadets who are grieving the death of Kim Jong-il. Chicago police prepare to extinguish a burning cross. The riots were triggered by an African-American family moving into a neighborhood previously inhabited only by white people, 1963. Chief Ranger Sam Woodring stands next to a house made of deer antlers in Yellowstone National Park, USA, 1928. one of the last indigenous Tasmanians, exterminated by British settlers, 1869. Girls learning golf using a mechanical trainer, 1925. This photo is a unique piece of history. It shows Geert Adriaens Boomgaard, the last living man who fought for French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. Geert was born in 1788 and died in 1899 at the age of 110. A photo that shows the true size of the Titanic's propellers. A hippie wedding, USA, 1960s. This is exactly how toilets were designed in the Middle Ages. It's a freak show, 1924, USA. Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. People pose for a photograph moments before they are struck by lightning. In 1920s, Beijing, there were so many horse-drawn carriages and rickshaws that desperate authorities tightened the punishment for speeding. This man was unlucky. Chinese traffic police put a board on him to wear for a week to think about traffic rules. Residents of East Berlin flee to the west through a hole in the fence before border guards notice. Berlin, 1961. Rally for abortion legalization, Italy, 1975. Adolf Hitler signs a document at the beginning of the war with Poland, 1939. Racial Purity Lessons, Germany, 1940. At the start of a combined dog and women's race, USA, 1927. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.